Radha Bala Radha Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaur Premanande Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privraj Kacharya Statra Shata Shisha Madhya Swami Bhai Charan Ravindra Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksharanmiritam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutay Mahat Prema Puro Vibhur Nirmaya Kshayate Yadamusha Purusha Punkte Gunan Sadasa Sadasmakalam Krishista Magaban Vacham Sime Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So we continue reading Canto 4, Chapter 24 of Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. And yesterday we were reading text 71, and we actually completed only half of it. So I don't know if you want to go to the next text or... No, I mean, we read the whole purport, but we haven't finished discussing all the points. Okay, so probably we won't have opportunity to reflect on 71. It's a very interesting text. Anyway, Bhagavatam is full of very interesting verses. Idamaha purasmakam Bhagavan Vishwasikpati Bhagavan Vishwasikpati Brigvadinam Atmajanam Sisrikshu Samsisrikshatam Sisrikshatam Idamaha Purasmakam Bhagavan Vishwasikpati Brigvadinam Atmajanam Sisrikshu Samsisrikshatam Haribol. Namaha Purasmakam Bhagavan Vishwasikpati Brigvadinam Atmajanam Sashikshasam Sashikshatam Yadamaha Prasmakam Bhagavan Visvashikpati Brigvadinam Atma Janam Sashikshasam Sashikshatam Aham Paratmakam Bhagavan Visvashikpati Brigvadinam Atma Janam. Ladies, please. Any ladies? Idam, this. Aha, said. Pura, formerly. Asmakam, unto us. Bhagavan, the Lord. Vishvasrik, the creators of the universe. Patihi, master. Brigvadinam, of the great sages headed by Brigu. Atmajanam, of his sons. Sistrikshu, desirous of creating. Samsrikshatam, who are in charge of creation. Translation purported by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This prayer was first spoken to us by Lord Brahma, the master of all creators. The creators headed by Brigu were instructed in these prayers because they wanted to create. Purport. Lord Brahma was created by Lord Vishnu, then Lord Brahma created Lord Shiva and other great sages headed by Bhrigu Muni. These great sages included Bhrigu Marichi, Atreya, Vasishta, and others. All these great sages were in charge of creating population. Since there were not very many living entities in the beginning, Vishnu entrusted Brahma with the business of creation. And Brahma in his turn created many hundreds and thousands of demigods and great sages to continue with the creation. At the same time, Lord Brahma cautioned all his sons and disciples by reciting the prayers now recited by Lord Shiva. The material creation means material engagement, but material engagements can be counteracted if we always remember our relationship with the Lord, as that relationship is described in these prayers recited by Lord Shiva. In this way, we can remain constantly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, despite our engagement in the creation, we cannot be deviated from the path of Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for this purpose. In this material world, everyone is engaged in some particular occupational duty which is prescribed in the Varnashram Dharma. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and everyone are engaged in their occupational duty, but if one remembers his first duty, keeping in constant contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything will be successful. If one simply executes the rules and regulations of the Varnashram Dharma in the role of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, and keeps busy and does not remember one's eternal relationship with the Lord, one's business and activities, as well as occupational duties, will simply be a waste of time. This is confirmed in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1-8. Dharmasvanushtita pumsa vishvaksana katasya natpadayet yadiratim samayva kevalam. The conclusion is that even if one is busy executing his occupational duty, his business in Krishna consciousness need not be hampered. He has simply to execute the devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, and remembering. One need not abandon his occupational duty. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18:46, Yata pravrittir bhutanam yana sarvamidam tatam svakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim midati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. Thus, one can continue with his occupational duty, but if he worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Shiva herein prescribes, he attains his perfection of life. Sanushtitasya dharmasya samsidir hari toshanam. Bhagavatam 1-13. We should continue executing our occupational duties, but if we try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our duties, then our lives will be perfect. Hare Krishna. So this is a perfect illustration to what we've spoken yesterday at our seminar. Idamaha purasmakam bhagavan visvashikpati brigu adinam atmajam sasrikshu samsashikshatam. This prayer was first spoken to us by Lord Brahma, the master of all creators. The creators, headed by Brigu, were instructed in these prayers because he wanted to create. So, Sisrikshuhu, that is the most used word in this verse, means create, but actually we can't really create because everything's already created by the Lord. And we're just using the elements to assemble them in our own way, in the same way as children, they assemble different things from the jigsaw puzzle, right? But it's already been created by adults, by some company. And so there is one joke about it, that one scientist challenged God. He said, with our scientific advancement, we could do anything you do. And then the man said, God said, can you create a man? God took the earth and made a body, and then, as Bible says, blew the life air in the body until then the man came to life. And scientists said, yeah, sure. And he took the earth, and the God said, no, if you claim you can do everything I do, then get your own earth. So, yeah. I mean, they claim that they can create life, right? That in the, what do you call it, test tubes, right? Instead of mother's womb, they can create life, but they didn't create life. That test tube is just a replacement for the womb. But the life comes from life. Without man and woman, there is no possibility of creating a human being. And so, yeah, creation, whatever creation is there, as Bhagavatam describes, is just a secondary creation. We just move elements around. And so by putting elements in a new way, so we become very proud, okay, I've created something special. I've done something no one have done before. Actually, we don't know what was have done before, because everything was already done so many times. But the things got forgotten in time, and so people think, okay, I've invented something new. There is nothing new. And so, but, everyone wants to feel himself creator, achiever, and so, okay, Krishna is allowing this illusion to go on. And for this reason, everybody is suffering, because everybody wants to be God, right? Because God is the enjoyer and controller, right? And so this is why we come to this world. Of course, in terms of enjoyment, there was no reason for us to come to the material world, because in the spiritual world there were plenty of enjoyment, but one thing was missing, and that is control. And we come here for control, for the sake of controlling, trying to, instead of serving God, because in the spiritual world everything is clear. Ekalaishvara Krishna Rasavabhritya. There is only one Lord, Krishna, and everybody else is his servant. And so that was really missing. We could not get the position of the controller in the spiritual world, and this is the reason we come to the material world. Try to be gods, try to create something out of nothing. And so, at the end, all we create is trouble. Trouble for ourselves and trouble for others. And so, of course, the great devotees, and we are lucky, because in our universe, Lord Brahma is the great devotee. And great devotees, they always compassionate towards the conditioned souls, and so they try to get them out of trouble. And so Lord Brahma gave that knowledge, which is now repeated by Lord Shiva to the Prachetas. This is called parampara. Passing the knowledge without any deviations. Original product, not corrupted, right? Even though it gets corrupted by time, as in the course of time, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that evam parampara praptam imam rajarshe vido sakaleneha mahata yoga nashta parantapa, right? That I originally gave this knowledge, and it was passed down through the chain of disciplic succession for saintly kings to learn. But in time, there was a yoga nashta, the connection was broken. right? And so, therefore, there is a need to reintroduce this knowledge. So, regularly, this knowledge gets lost. You probably know this, how it works. Chinese whispers, right? That whatever message is, it gets so corrupted at the end you cannot even recognize that, right? And so, yeah, it's the nature of the material world, that everything gets distorted. I think yesterday we discussed that, right? All the information we get goes through the three things: deletion, distortion, and generalization. So it's very confusing. And that's why there is a need to reinforce or, purify the message again. And so either the Lord or his empowered representatives, they do it regularly. And so here, two Mahajans, two pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are teaching others, such as Prachetas, this pure knowledge. And what is the aim of this pure knowledge? And this is very interesting because this purport speaks about Varnashram Dharma, Varnashrama Charavata Purushana Parapuman. Varnashram Dharma is the perfect scientific system of advancement in human society given by the Lord, and this is the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. Without Varnashram Dharma, Sanatana Dharma is not really possible. And so, actually, Prabhupada said that 50% of his mission was not completed. It's very interesting that from our standpoint, Srila Prabhupada was one of the greatest achievers in the history of mankind, right? Considering what he has done. But from Srila Prabhupada's standpoint, he said he could only accomplish 50%. And half of his work was not completed. This is what he said before he left this world. And what was the last 50%, the remaining 50%? That was Varnashram Dharma. He said, I gave you spiritual knowledge, I gave you spiritual practices, but what I didn't have enough time to complete was to establish social structure based on spiritual knowledge and practices. And again, connecting back to the first purpose of ISKCON, as I say, there is a big and very good reason why the first purpose of ISKCON is first. And first things first, right? Even though it seems to be, from our narrow religious point of view, right? And there is a good reason why religions create so much havoc in the world. Because religions oftentimes make people very proud. Oh, I own God. God belongs to me. I am God's empowered representative, right? And all of you better do what I say or else God will show his wrath. And if God will fail, I'll help him. Like that. So, therefore religions, they cause so much trouble in the world, right? Because people claim to represent God, but it doesn't mean that they do it right. And that's why some people are praying to God, please save me from your followers. And so We don't want to be in this category. That someone would pray to God to be saved from us, I'm sure. And we can also understand that the word religion does not exactly apply to Krishna consciousness, right? This is what Srila Prabhupada explains in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita on the basis of what Ramanujacharya explains, that religion is something which is created in the history. Religion is something which is meant for certain people in certain circumstances given at a certain time, right? And so because religions have beginning in the annals of human history, that's why religions have end. But Krishna consciousness is not another religion. It is Sanatan Dharma. And unlike all religions, Sanatan Dharma is beginningless, and therefore it is eternal. And it is applicable to all living entities at all time and in all circumstances. And so this is what we practice, that Bhakti Yoga is actually Sanatan Dharma. I remember speaking at Interfaith panel at Dell Company, and that was in Texas, where they have their headquarters. And one participant asked us, we had representatives of 4 denominations, and someone said, what is the greatest misunderstanding? What are the greatest misunderstandings, common misunderstanding about your tradition? And so I had to say that common misunderstanding about Krishna consciousness or ISKCON is that we are mixed up with Hinduism. But Hinduism, even though it's connected to Krishna consciousness, it is the origin of Krishna consciousness. And Hinduism is actually a corrupt version of Sanatana Dharma, right? Instead of worshipping the Supreme Lord along with his associates, demigods, and devotees, people started worshipping certain demigods separately and started imagining that these demigods are the Supreme Lord, right? So that's the corruption. And so one Indian lady came up to me later. She said, but, why do you think that Krishna consciousness is separate from Hinduism? And I said, it's not separate in the same way as root cannot be separate from the tree. It's the origin of Hinduism, but what's understood under the banners of Hinduism is very wrong idea at the moment. It's basically a very sentimental practice deprived of spiritual knowledge. And that's the reason Srila Prabhupada instituted daily classes based on his books, right? Because his books, they help us to understand what Sanatana Dharma or Bhakti Yoga really is. And yes, if Krishna consciousness would be another religion, then why Krishna would say in the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. And Prabhupada was saying many times that Krishna consciousness is not another religion. What to speak of sectarian, faith. It's a spiritual science applicable to everyone. And so, this is the most important thing about Krishna consciousness, that it is meant for all. And therefore, first purpose of ISKCON is the most important thing for us. The most important focus should be the most important focus in our lives. And again, it is to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and teach all people the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve real unity and peace in the world. And it's really hard for many people because, as we've mentioned, this purpose does not even mention God, what to speak of Krishna, right? And so that's very broad, and most of the people have very narrow consciousness. So it doesn't fit in. And whatever does not fit in, the people just tend to ignore. But actually, as we mentioned on the first day, the first and foremost sign of spiritual entrepreneur or spiritual leader is thinking big. And big thinking is intrinsically connected to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Krishna is the biggest personality of all, right? And Krishna's thinking is the biggest thinking. Like Srila Prabhupada, when he had first experience of flying on the airplane, he was very amused. Prabhupada liked it. He liked that new experience. And so he actually took his seat near the window and he was looking down. And he told to his secretary, just see how small everything looks from this height. All the houses, they're like matchboxes and all. And then he actually put it in Krishna conscious perspective immediately. He said, just imagine how it all looks like from Krishna's point of view. If for us, it looks so small and insignificant, right? What to speak of Krishna? So that's called transcendental level. But yes, Krishna has the broadest consciousness of all. And so actually, Krishna consciousness means to broaden our consciousness, right? That is the sign that we really advance in Krishna consciousness, when we see things in a broad perspective. And this is what Bhagavatam emphasizes, and Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse many times. Akama sarva kama va, moksha kama udaradhi, tivrena bhakti yoginaya jeta purusham param. That whether one does not have any desires, or full of desires, or desiring liberation, if one has, as Prabhupada says, broader intelligence. Normally we say broad-minded, right? But same thing, broad consciousness. Udaradhi. Udara means broad, and dhi means intelligence. So that's the direct translation of the Sanskrit, broader intelligence. Tivrena bhakti yogina, then one can be very focused in his practice of bhakti yoga. Tivrena means like laser, or Sanskrit verse says sun ray, but we can use the analogy of laser ray, very focused and very powerful. Yajata purusham param, one can be very focused in one's practice of bhakti yoga and achieve supreme perfection. So these things seem to be contradictory. How can one has very broad consciousness, or how broad consciousness, the broader one's consciousness is, the more focused one's practice of bhakti yoga is, right? How the broadest can be focused with the narrowest. So anyone has any idea how broad consciousness can help us to become very much focused, narrowly focused on Krishna?
Maybe
Yes, very good. Yes. Yamam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha maya pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sachamena pranashyati. This is what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, right? Rikeshari Prabhu knows the translation of this verse. Nor he is lost to me. Very good, thank you. Yeah, anyone else wanted to say something about this? Yeah, this is exactly the idea. That broad consciousness means you see how everything is connected to Krishna, how everything belongs to Krishna. And if you see that, you will naturally be focused on how everything should be used in Krishna's service, right? So this is the connection between broad and narrow. And this is the whole idea of Varnashram Dharma, to become Krishna conscious, to become God conscious. And so this is very important for all of us, to be Krishna conscious not just in the temple and not just during our japa time or kirtan time, but to be Krishna conscious all the time, in all circumstances. And what's the first step? Srila Prabhupada specifically indicates the difference between Kanishta and Madhyamadhikari is what? We have few young sages here. They can tell us what's the difference between Kanishta and Madhyama. Immature or mature devotee. What's the main difference? Anyone? Yes. Yes, very good. That Kanishtadhikari sees Krishna only on the altar. And yeah, so this is God, and he only respects Krishna, right? Why he respects Krishna? Because Krishna keeps smiling at him and keeps quiet. Just imagine, someone always keeps smiling at you and keeps quiet. Oh, good person. But what he is failing to understand? Yeah, that Krishna is everywhere, and in the first place, where Krishna is situated? In the hearts of other people. So Kanishtadhikari only respects Krishna on the altar, but he doesn't give respect to other people. And if someone is very much Kanishta, he doesn't even know how to respect other devotees, right? So, but when one becomes Madhyam, then one understands that yes, Krishna is not only on the altar, Krishna is not confined to the altar, right? Like someone challenged Srila Prabhupada, why do you say God comes to this world? And Prabhupada's response was, anyone can stop him? So that's very much Kanishta mentality, that God is limited. No, God is not limited. And so, yes, he is not just on the altar, he is also in the hearts of other living entities. And so, what is the attitude of Madhyama towards other devotees? How does Madhyamadhikari treats other devotees? Yeah, friendship. And so that's the sign that we are gradually developing as Madhyamadhikaris. We have no problems with any devotees. Young or old, advanced or immature. We understand, okay? These people are all striving to become Krishna conscious, so we appreciate that. And we behave in a friendly way towards all of the devotees. Even though sometimes not all the devotees might be friendly to us due to whatever their conditioning, right? But mature devotee, Madhyamadikari, is always friendly to other devotees, regardless of their attitude towards him. Their attitude towards him does not affect him. That's Madhyama. That's why it is called Nishtha, right? It is opposite to Kanishtha. Kanishtha means unsteady flickering, right? Very much depending on circumstances, other people. Someone smiled at me, someone said good thing, okay, I like this devotee. Someone didn't smile at me, someone said something which I didn't like very much, so I don't like this devotee. So that's all Kanishta mentality, right? We fail to recognize a simple thing, that everyone is just an instrument in Krishna's hands. And who is Krishna? Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the friend of everyone. So no matter how things turn out and no matter how I am treated, I understand, okay, Krishna is behind and Krishna is my best friend. And so I don't mind. I understand, okay, someone might be influenced by ignorance of what to do. Someone is sick. But it doesn't matter that our attitude is changing towards these people, right? And my spiritual master gave a very interesting example from his own life that how Madhyamadikari is supposed to treat others, even though others might mistreat him. And he had to undergo some surgery, and this was a serious surgery done under the general anesthesia. General, what you call it, they put him to sleep, right? But somehow they didn't give him sufficient dose of that, whatever they smell, gas. And so it happened that he woke up in the middle of the surgery. And, anyone who knows his life history, he's been trained as Marine in US Army, right? And, they have been trained to respond very swiftly to the attacks, right? And so you can imagine, he said, I'm waking up and I see the man with the mask on his face and with a bloody knife in his hand. And so he said, my spontaneous response was, I just punched him in the nose. And did not, because I was in this, hazy consciousness, I did not figure out if he was my surgeon. And so he said, he was holding his nose and he said, please give me more of the anesthetics, give him gas. And so they put him back to sleep. And then, after it was all over, and, he was in a ward, and then actually he remembered the episode. And he said he felt so bad because he realized what happened. And then he was thinking, how do I, look in my surgeon's eyes now? Because it was a serious military punch. And then, he said, the surgeon enters into my ward, and I'm lying there, and his nose is band-aided. And he started apologizing. He said, Doctor, I'm very sorry for what I have done. And doctor said,
don't worry, you were not in the right state of consciousness. It's all okay. And so he gave that example to bring an analogy of a devotee who is also like a spiritual doctor, right? And he's treating patients, and some patients are not in the right state of mind. And that's why they might say or do very strange things. And sometimes these things might be even harmful. But if we are in the right state of mind ourselves, we can understand, okay, what to do. These people are undergoing treatment, and that's why it's just occupational hazard. That you try to help others, but they might not be appreciative of that. And maybe there was some mistake from my part also, like we've discussed last year when we spoke about life without conflicts, right? Whenever conflict arises or whenever the problem arises, one of the questions, as Adipurush Prabhu mentioned, should be, what have I done wrong? And so, naturally, what the surgeon has done wrong, he allowed insufficient amount of the drug to be administered to the patient, and that's why the patient woke up in the middle of the surgery, and so it was his mistake for which he suffered. So all of us are suffering due to our own mistakes. Sometimes we might feel that we are innocent victims, but according to the Vedic version, such thing does not exist. Innocent victim. And so, yes, this is the sign, the first sign of our advancement, that we have no problems with anyone who is chanting Hare Krishna, no matter how good or bad people are. And sometimes, yes, even those who chant Hare Krishna, they might exhibit some trends which are not very inspiring, unfortunately, because people are under treatment, right? It's not that everyone who just walks into the doors of ISKCON temple immediately, becomes a saint. It takes time. And understanding that and being okay with that is the first sign of spiritual maturity, right? And so second sign of spiritual maturity is understanding that other traditions, they're also connected to the same Supreme Lord, to the same Krishna. And other people, they're also on the path of their spiritual advancement. They may not follow the same strict rules, like we have 4 Agota principles. And this is can be very rarely found in other traditions, but we can understand. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati sitaye, yatatamabhi sidanam kaschin mambetti tatvata. As Krishna explains in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Rikeshwari, you remember the translation? Out
of thousands of men, one person can be.
And out of all this?
Only one of them.
Yes. And out of all who are striving for perfection, only one hardly knows me in truth, right? So we can understand devotees are very, very rare personalities. That's why you can see how many people live in Melbourne. 5 million. And how many devotees we have in the community? Not even 5,000, right? Yeah?
Many are called, few are chosen.
Yeah. So very few. So devotees are very rare because our standards, it's like 4 regulative principles and 16 rounds every day. This is just for beginners.
then it goes on increasing. Early morning, chant, not just 16 rounds, but 24 hours a day, as Prabhupada said on one of the previous verses. Full engagement in devotional service. Read all Prabhupada's books, 60 volumes, and once you finish, go over again. And once you finish, go over again, and go over again, and again, and again, etc. Then take courses and take, it's like, sometimes you might wonder, will it ever end, increasing of the standards? So we can understand, Krishna consciousness is for very, very rare few, special souls.
Unending fruit. Unending ocean.
Yeah. And so that's why, what we've discussed yesterday, devotees are very special and very rare and really amazing souls. And of course, when we are into close proximity, as the saying goes, familiarity breeds contempt, and we fail to appreciate how amazing and how wonderful devotees are. And sometimes, devotees do mind-blowing things, amazing things, but hardly anyone appreciates that. And this is like so strange. I traveled to one temple in America, which is in Houston, in Texas. And I found out that one elderly gentleman, one elderly devotee, Tamal Krishna Maharaj disciple, has actually created the biggest community and temple complex in the entire Western world, single-handedly. Temple, community hall, residential quarters, restaurant, shop, you name it, all like massive, at least $20 million American dollars invested in that project. Huge territory, their own farm next to the temple, in the city, in the heart of Houston. And I was like, who have done that? Because, maybe in India we have bigger projects, but there is nothing like that in the Western world. It blew my mind, the scale of it and the beauty of it. And, I thought maybe some guru behind, somebody, very famous, with plenty of disciples, with loads of resources, financial resources. And I was pointed out, this elderly Gujarati devotee, he did all of this. I was like, wow, how this is possible? Yeah. And so I appreciated him a few times. In class, I just shared, how impressive it was. And I actually learned that in all the years, he was never really appreciated, even once, by what he did. Because, familiarity breeds contempt. And this is very unfortunate. That's why I think I'm in very advantageous position, because if you move around so much, you cannot develop familiarity. So you always see that from the observer's perspective, and it's easy to appreciate how much wonderful service devotees are doing. And so, it's really important for us to understand how rare the devotees are, because most people, they cannot even start devotional service, because it's too challenging for them. The standards are too high for them. They still want to believe in God. They still want to practice something, some service, do some service, but they want to be on their level, where there are no challenging standards, right? And so this is all other faiths. But we should still appreciate that, yes, despite of maybe their weaknesses, these people still want to advance spiritually, they still want to serve God, and at least we can understand they are on the path. And if they follow their own tradition properly, one day they will achieve perfection, they will come to Krishna. And I have seen these examples many, many times in my life. And I mean, we have many devotees in our society who actually come from different traditions, right? And their practice of their tradition actually brought them to Krishna, finally. And so that's why mature understanding is appreciating anyone who believes in God and who is trying. Even there are traditions in this world who are not connected to God at all. Like Kali Yuga brought the phenomenon of non-theistic religions. It's amazing. It's a religion, but when you come to, who is God, it's like, you come to the altar and it's empty. No one. There is no God. But still it is religion. And the brightest examples are Buddhism and Jainism. They are considered to be non-theistic religions because there is Dharma there, but there is no God. But still, people follow Dharma, so Dharma helps them to become purified and gradually come to God, come to understanding of God. And so it's like, we have different traditions. Certain traditions, they have God, but very weak Dharma. Other traditions, they have strong Dharma, but no God. So something is missing. But still, we can understand that at least people are connected to Dharma and Supreme Lord one way or the other, and that's why they are still better than materialistic people. And very mature understanding is to respect and appreciate every single human being. Because Krishna tells in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that of all species of life, the most dear to me are human beings. And you can see human beings, they even resemble Krishna, right? Radha Krishna. So men are made after image of Krishna and women are made after image of Radharani, right? So human beings are very close to Krishna. And because, they have developed intelligence which can help them to understand Krishna. And so that's why mature devotees appreciate all human beings as potential devotees, right? But if you are on the topmost level of Krishna consciousness, then you can appreciate and respect every living entity, regardless of the form. And so we were speaking about it because the previous verse mentioned very important word, which is adritaha, with great reverence. Reverence means respect also, and so it is very important that we develop that respectful attitude. Amani namanadana, as Lord Chaitanya said, respecting everyone and not expecting any respect towards ourselves. So that is the perfect condition for us to chant the holy name and advance. And incidentally, it's very interesting, certain things Prabhupada said are pretty confusing for the beginners, like myself. And so when I heard that Prabhupada said every Indian is intrinsically Krishna conscious, right? That Krishna consciousness is in every Indian. And that kind of made me puzzled because I was thinking in India many people, they worship not necessarily Krishna, but they worship, Shiva, Ganesh, Durga, so many objects of worship, Kartikeya, Murugan. And some of them, they are not even following Hinduism, they are Christians or Muslims or some other faith. Or some of them are not even following anything, just ordinary materialistic people. So why Prabhupada says that every Indian is intrinsically Krishna conscious? And actually, by visiting India and by living in India for quite a while, I've realized. Because what Prabhupada meant, because Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness will conquer the world by education and culture. And we can understand that education is theory and culture is practice. And if you look at very common Indian culture, it's all about respect, right? Very high level of respect. And we can understand, and broad-minded attitude, right? That, I mean, India was probably the only country which was never fanatical about any religions and was allowing what you call it, pluralism of the religious practices, because, it actually comes from Krishna consciousness, this broad-mindedness. So this broad-minded attitude and respect, that's very typical Indian culture. And because Indians, almost all Indians, they have that culture, that's why it's very easy for them to accept Krishna consciousness. That's why Prabhupada said that we don't even need to worry about making Indians Krishna conscious, because they're already there, right? We need to focus on how to make Western people Krishna conscious. Because culture, this is the most powerful thing we have. And it is very important to understand that Krishna consciousness is primarily culture, and then everything else is secondary. Philosophy is just to help us understand and appreciate Vedic or Krishna conscious culture. And that is the essence of culture. Trinadapi sunishana, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadana kirtaniya sadahari. That to be more humble than the blade of grass, to be more tolerant than a tree, and respect everyone without demanding or even expecting any respect for oneself. So only in this state of mind one can always chant the holy names of the Lord. Anyway, I've spoken longer than I should be again. But anyway, if anyone has anything, yes. Yeah, very interesting that if we should not be expecting any respect, then the sages directly associated with Lord Krishna in Dwarka, they should not be expecting any respect, and why they became angry at Samba and his friends who started mocking them, right, and cursed them. And same thing with Narad Muni, right? When he was passing by Nalakuvar and Manigriv, he also cursed them. And we can see many, many instances of very exalted Vaishnavas, not just ordinary Vaishnavas, but associates of the Lord, pure devotees. And They demand the respect and they even curse people if they don't get the sufficient respect. How that is tying with the third verse of Shikshashtakam? That's a very good question. Yeah, actually, there are two levels. Level of practice and the level of perfection, sadhana and sadhya. And so even in the material world, that certain things professionals can do, laymen should not try, right? Like you might come across some videos with a warning, don't try that at home, right? Because it's dangerous. And so the same thing applies to spiritual life, that if someone is practitioner, then general rules are applicable to the practitioner. But if someone is perfect, they can actually do something which seems to be breaking the rules because they actually know what they're doing. And we can see Prabhupada. Prabhupada was, for example, sometimes very harsh with people, right? And saying very heavy things. One time Prabhupada gave a class to big audience, and he was using his, arsenal. He had those, heavy words, fools, rascals, pigs, hogs, dogs, asses. Prabhupada had the whole zoo to throw at people, right? And he was using all these things, he was like firing at people, these things. And then he came back after this class and he was laughing and laughing. And the disciple said, why do you laugh, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada was saying that for good hour I was calling them, dogs, asses, hogs, and all this. And at the end they were clapping. But it is very important, and Prabhupada said, don't imitate. What I can say, you cannot say. And unfortunately, this instruction is heavily violated. There are plenty of devotees who try to imitate Srila Prabhupada with very negative results, right? Because they are not there. They don't have Prabhupada's consciousness to say what Prabhupada, could say. And so in the same way, these great sages, they could actually curse people for their benefit. And their curses would work. But, when it comes to us, actually I think it's a blessing of Kali Yuga that all the brahmanas and devotees, they don't have those powers. Otherwise we can only imagine what would happen, right? All the curses and counter curses. Like which Daksha Yagya that describes. And so, it's actually Kali Yuga blessing. Otherwise, we would never have anyone practicing devotee. Right? Everyone would finish each other with curses and counter curses. But you can see that those great personalities, they act as perfect instruments in Krishna's hands, and whatever they do is motivated by compassion. And so it's like one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Sakshi Gopal. Actually, there are so many stories like that, but this is one instance that they were driving Srila Prabhupada through central London, and if anyone has been to London, you know that Saturday is the shopping day for the whole country. They go crazy shopping. It's very dangerous to distribute books, even though there are many people on the streets. But if you try to stop someone, especially ladies, and if they see the sign sale, and if you try to stop them with books, they can actually run over you, running to the sale, right? And so Prabhupada was going in the car through the central London, and he saw all the shopping madness people running around this, the shops, etc. And then he started saying, oh, all these people are such fools and rascals, and using all the, heavy words. And it appeared like Prabhupada was upset with these people, but then Saksha Gopal Prabhu said he was sitting next to Prabhupada and he looked into his eyes and Prabhupada was crying. And he said, how these people can be saved? So he was angry and he was using all these heavy words, but his anger was motivated by love, not by false ego or anything in the material world. And so, it's like loving parents. They can be angry with the children if children do something dangerous, right? If a child is trying to, do something dangerous, the loving parent might shout at the child, right? Just to scare the child away, just to stop him, prevent him from doing something dangerous. But this so-called anger is motivated by love, right? And so that's the idea, that unless we have this kind of love Srila Prabhupada had, if we try to do it at home, if we try to imitate Srila Prabhupada, it might produce very negative results. Enriquez Brahma. Yeah.
So it just so happens sometimes as new devotees that we clash about devotees, and even though we are here that we should come up to the level of Madhyamadikari, we should not do that. It might happen again and again. So
We might clash with the devotees,
yeah,
or other devotees might clash.
like me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So even though we can hear that theoretically, like we should not do that, but still it can happen again and again. We really know how to do it, but still it happens. So we have some advice how to put it clearly.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we practice, mistakes are almost unavoidable. And so, yeah, it might happen. But then, once we see that, okay, I was not behaving in the right way, the best way is to apologize to the devotee and try to never do that again. Sometimes, it's like the, again, life without conflicts principle, that conflict means mistakes are done by both sides. It's absolute rule that one hand will never clap. For clap, you need both hands. So, and it is possible that the opposite party contributed much more than me. But if I realize I still contributed something, then I can apologize for my side and clear my conscience, right? So this is the way. He had his hand first. You want to ask your question?
It's written in the translation that Brahma is the master of all the creators. But Krishna is also the creator, then how can we understand?
Yeah, Brahma is the master of all the creators, and Krishna is not defined in Vaishnava theology as the supreme controller or creator or destroyer or even maintainer. We can see that all these functions of creation, maintenance and destruction, he outsourced to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, right? And officially the Supreme Lord is not Krishna, but it is Narayan. So that's why we understand Krishna not as Supreme Controller, but as Supreme Enjoyer. And it's very interesting that God, officially God means G-O-D, right? Generator, operator, and destroyer. And we can understand that Krishna, as he is he doesn't do these things. He is not involved in this. His business is pure enjoyment. And so that's why he is the supreme enjoyer. And Krishna is not even happy, we can see, when he is addressed as the Supreme Lord. Krishna doesn't want to be the God. Krishna doesn't want to be God. He just wants to be a coward boy, playing with his cows and friends. And incidentally, he is the source of all gods. That is the mystery of the Vedic literature, right? That's very few people know who Krishna is. And so, yes, Krishna is not doing all these divine functions. He's outsourcing them to his avatars and others, right? He's just enjoying life. And this is who Krishna is. Wow. My God. Looks like voting or something. Okay, let's give boys chance. Even though I'm really nervous because these boys, they ask the kind of questions which really are explained only in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are only studying for 4th canto. So I'm a little nervous whether I will have enough knowledge to answer their questions. Yes. Yeah, again, familiarity breeds content because for Indians, Krishna consciousness is something very familiar. They don't appreciate it as much as Western people. Prabhupada said, Indians are very close to Krishna, but they turned away from Krishna. They tend to turn away from Krishna. But Western people are very far from Krishna, but they are facing Krishna. They're moving towards Krishna. So yes, but yeah, actually we should help both understand and appreciate Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada started with Western people because in India people didn't appreciate Krishna consciousness, right? But once Prabhupada came back with so many Westerners, Indian people thought, wow, they practice our Dharma, maybe something valuably our Dharma still has to offer. So Indians started taking up Krishna consciousness, looking at the example of Western people.
Like, if some people, why do the people get reaction if they have not seen a devotee and they don't know that what they do, they get a reaction?
Why people get reaction if they don't know that they might be getting a reaction? Well, Prabhupada said law is law whether one knows or don't. Like, if you kill someone and then you say, oh, sorry, I didn't know that. In your town, it's not right, it's against the law. Because I come from some wild island and, we used to do that. But still, if you break the law, you go to jail, right? Or you get punished. Like Prabhupada said, driving on the opposite side of the street. If you do that, you'll be punished by the law. So yeah, the ignorance, the lack of knowledge of the laws does not relieve one from the reaction. So that's why it is so important for us to help people know the laws of God, know Shastra, because this is how Prabhupada defines Shastra, as God's laws, right? So that they are careful not to break those laws and not to get reactions.
Thank you very much. Maharaj, how the three modes of material nature, they affect our qualification to be Uttam, Madhyama, Kanishta?
Well, ignorance is symptomatic of Kanishta. between ignorance and passion. So between passion and goodness, that's madhyama. But transcendence, that's uttamatikari, right?
Devotees from another traditions obtain prema in some stage of their path, religion, or they can obtain that kind of stage, spiritual stage.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada was making comments about Francis of Assisi, that when, he heard that he was addressing like even birds and animals like brothers and sisters, he was asked, what is the level? And he said, oh, this is love of God. That's, so yeah, there are examples like that.
So we can say that members of another traditions also can go into Goloka Vrindavan, for example?
Well, Goloka Vrindavan, that's different, and for that one needs to know Krishna. But by practicing any tradition, people can come to Krishna. And yeah, we can see evidence that in ISKCON there are so many devotees who used to practice either Islam or Christianity or some other faith, Judaism. So now they are practicing Krishna consciousness.
Maharaj, you mentioned about that without Varnashram Dharma, the Sanatana Dharma cannot be achieved.
Yes.
So, well, generally when we come to Krishna consciousness, for many of us, we are not clear about our Varnashram Dharma, and probably it will take a long time if ever we found out about our Varnas. But then regardless, we still engage in Krishna consciousness, following the instructions of our spiritual masters and teachers. So, how do we understand this?
Well, varna means you have certain nature and occupation matching that nature, and it makes easier for you because it's natural to advance in Krishna consciousness. Because if you like doing what you do, you can get the best results and you can dedicate it to Krishna, right? But if you force yourself to do something you don't really like, Prabhupada speaks about it as emergency duties, right? Certain duties you have to do even though you don't like doing that. And we all have those emergency duties sometimes, We have to do something we don't like, but we can understand that the state of emergency cannot last forever. Even I know one devotee, and he belongs to that special, secret police forces, and he was doing all these special tasks and, fighting with criminals and, like most dangerous criminals, right? And then he gave it up after a while because, it's like he has huge body, very strong, it's kind of born for that kind of kshatriya. But then, he said he's been stabbed and wounded by bullets so many times. And he's been in and out of hospital. And his wife would go crazy because, every single day she knows what he's doing. And she thinks, will he be alive or not? And so he said, after a while, even that wears you down. There are other ways how to, apply one's kshatriya spirit rather than just dealing with all kinds of, low-class people, criminals, and also being always in emergency, that is not natural. So emergency duties can last for some time, but there should be like standard duties according to our nature. Last one, because we should finish. Wow, so many people, my God.
You see that, talk about the broad consciousness and talk about Krishna consciousness. We in interfaith kind of thing, Krishna consciousness is very
Yes. Well, I mean, it's the same thing, life without conflicts, that if we face very strong reaction to us, that, of course, that's an imperfection from their side, but it means we also are doing something wrong. And I had one experience, I had few experiences, but one was very, kind of impressive. When I traveled with my spiritual master, and he is very, active in interfaith relations, and we were in Mongolia, and it is primarily Buddhist country. And so he requested the devotees to organize interfaith meeting with Buddhist leaders in Mongolia. So we came, and that Buddhist abbot, he came to meet us with maybe about 20 monks. It was very big monastery. And we had about 15 devotees or so it was like not just two people, but two groups. And I could see on his face, because, Hare Krishnas are very well known for being very aggressive and very radical, right? And so they came to that meeting and they were kind of very tense. They were thinking, okay, Hare Krishnas will start converting us now or something. But then Indradyumna Maharaj came to the meeting dressed in Mongolian dress. And Bhada Haridas Prabhu was also there, dressed in Mongolian dress. And they were like, wow, they are dressed in our, traditional attire. And then the first thing Indradyumna Maharaj said, I'm very happy to meet you, and I have high appreciation for your Buddhist culture, because it produces high quality people, and therefore we want to do something to support you in your culture and in your work. We want to help you. We want to serve you. And that Buddhist monk was very surprised. He said, why? And then Indradyumna Maharaj told him the story. He said, I met one young boy who was actually the son of congregation member. And when he was 11 years old, on his own, he wanted to become a Buddhist monk. And even though his parents, especially his mother, was panicking, like 11 years old, wants to become a monk, so she was totally against it, but he insisted, and he went to the monastery and he became a monk. And he came to meet Maharaj dressed in a monk's robes. And mother came to Maharaj, she said, can you talk my boy out of it? He wanted to become Buddhist monk, this is not our tradition, this and that. And Indradyumna Maharaj said, he decided on his own to become a monk at 11? And mother said, yes, despite of all my, whatever I was saying. And he turned to this boy and he said, how can you live? This is so austere in the monastery. And the boy said, yeah, I'm happy to have nothing. And he said, but what about toys? You're a small boy. He said, I don't need any toys. I only need my prayer beads and mantras to chant. I'm fully happy with that. Sleeping on the floor, I only have 2 sets of clothes, one which I'm wearing, the other one drying on the line, and I'm totally happy. And Maharaj said, whoa. And he turned to Bhada Haridas Prabhu. He said, can you imagine this kind of boy in America? And Bhada Haridas Prabhu said, no chance. He said, it's only here, so serious about spiritual life. And then he turned to the mother. He said, why do you want to talk him out of it? Because he is learning discipline, he is learning simplicity, he is doing his austerity. And, okay, he is practicing Buddhism, he is learning Buddhism, but, I mean, there are so many similarities in our philosophies. And it's really good for him to learn Buddhism. And plus, the choice of tradition should be volunteer. No one should be forced into anything, right? So, and you don't have Gurukul in here anyway, so why do you want him to stop? Let him practice. And then he told this Buddhist monk, these kind of people, are only in here, and if your culture gives this quality of people to the world, we want to support it. And then this Buddhist monk said, but you belong to different tradition, why you want to support us? And Maharaj said, well, we have many things in common. All of us believe in karma, in reincarnation, and we have compassion as the top value, the top quality, and many other things. And plus, all of us chant mantras, read Sanskrit. We have so many things in common. And plus, we believe that Buddha is avatar of Krishna. So we have no problem with your tradition, because Krishna started your tradition as avatar of Buddha. And this monkey said, it's interesting, because our scripture also say that Krishna is avatar of Buddha. Krishna is another form of Buddha, he said. And Maharaj said, you see, we have so many similarities, so we can work together. Tell us, what can we do for you? And this monk was so bewildered. He said, if you have such broad understanding, we could let you give classes to our monks, and you could also preach to our congregation. And Maharaj said, thank you for the offer, but maybe we could help you with something. And then this monk said, the way you chant your mantras is very attractive. So many people come and they dance with you, they chant with you. We cannot attract people like that. So if we could learn from you to chant mantras in such attractive way, that would be very nice. Could you please chant the mantra for us? So they requested kirtan. And we've done kirtan for half an hour, and they were ecstatic. We didn't even bring instruments because we didn't expect that. But, Maharaj's attitude and his openness and his humility just melted their hearts. And at the end of the kirtan, Maharaj said, you have such a beautiful monastery, and we want to chant one protection mantra to protect you from all troubles. And Buddhists, they love protection mantras. And so then we've chanted Nrsingadev prayers. And at the end, they didn't want to let us go. They were like taking pictures with us and asking 108 times, when are you coming back? How can we work together, etc. So it was complete transformation. And I was thinking, this is what's missing. This kind of attitude is really missing. It's like Prabhupada's advice was in like a needle, out like a plow. But sometimes, unfortunately, we see devotees there, they want to go in like a plow, and they just break their heads, and people just resist, and they say, go away, not interested in you. So, Bhakti Yoga is Buddhi Yoga, so it would be good to use our intelligence in dealing with other traditions especially. I'm afraid Shukadev Prabhu will curse me. So, therefore, all questions I'll be happy to answer individually, but officially we would have to stop the class. So thank you all very much for your live interest. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.